Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. Hope everyone is fine and feeling well. Today it's our lecture number 8 of class 9th, the chapter 5 physical states of matter, and the topic is the solid state, in which we are going to discuss about the melting and freezing point and also the process of the sublimation. So in solid state, first of all, we will discuss about the typical properties of the solid. As in the previous lecture, we discussed about the typical properties of the gases and the properties of the liquid. So now the typical property of the solid, that is totally changed from the property of the liquid and gases. Unlike the liquids, the particles in solid are not free to move from one place to other. In solids, particles are closely packed together and have fixed positions. They can only vibrate about their fixed positions. Solids, therefore, are incompressible and do not flow. As we discussed in the gaseous state or in the liquid state, that the particles of the gases or the particles of the liquid, they are having large empty spaces between them, and they can move from one place to another place. So unlike them, the particles of the solid, they are closely packed together and they cannot move freely. That's why they can only vibrate about their fixed position. So that's why we can say that solid particles have definite shape and definite volume. Solids have definite shape due to the strong force of attraction between the particles of the solid. And similarly, if we discuss the compressibility of the solid, so solids are nearly incompressible as compared to the gases or liquid. Here we can see that if we see that gases, the particles are free to move and they can occupy the entire spaces that is provided to the gas molecule. They have large empty spaces between them. And similarly, the particles of the liquid, they also have empty spaces between them, and they are also free to move from one place to another place. And if we see the particles of the solid, as they are closely packed together, they can only vibrate about their fixed position. They cannot freely move from one place to another place. And the figures show the same, that the particles of the solid, they only show the vibration. They cannot move freely from one place to another place. And the first typical property of the solid which we are going to discuss, that is the melting point. So what is melting point? The temperature at which the solid starts changing into a liquid is called melting point. Means when we heat a solid, it starts turning into liquid state. So we can see that it is the melting point. The particles in a solid vibrate about fixed position. When we heat a solid, its particles vibrate more rapidly due to increase in average kinetic energy. As we discussed now, that the particles of the solid, due to tightly packed together, they cannot move. They can only vibrate about their fixed position. And with the increase of the temperature, the average kinetic energy of the particles increases, due to which the vibration also increases and they can vibrate more rapidly. When its temperature is raised to a level at which vibration of the particles become so intense that particles start leaving their fixed position, thus arrangement of particles within the solids breaks down and eventually the solid melts. And if we increase the temperature, the further increase of the temperature, a time will come that the vibration of the particles becomes so intense that the particles start leaving their fixed position, and that's why the arrangement of the particles within the solids break down, and at that point the solid melts, and that we can say that it is the melting point of the solid. And the second property, that is the freezing point. Freezing is the reverse of the melting. So freezing point is the temperature at which a liquid starts changing into a solid is called freezing point. As we discussed in melting, that solid starts converting into liquid. So in freezing, the liquid starts converting into the solid. So on cooling, the liquid freezes. Thus freezing of a liquid is the reverse of the melting. The melting and freezing of substance occurs at the same temperature. At this temperature, the liquid and solid substance are in equilibrium with each other. 0 degree Celsius, that is the melting point, as well as the freezing point. As in 0 degree Celsius, the solid just starts converting into the liquid, that we can say it is the melting point, and at the same temperature the liquid starts converting into the solid, that we can say it is the freezing point. So we can say at 0 degree Celsius the two processes are the reverse of each other and they are the equilibrium state. Here we can see that solid particles, for example ice, if we convert it into the liquid state, it requires the energy, that is the endothermic reaction, and that is the melting process. And similarly, if we convert the liquid into the solid, so the process releases energy, that is the exothermic reaction, and this process is known as freezing. So we can say that melting and freezing are the reverse of each other. The third typical property of some solids, that is the sublimation. Before starting the sublimation, if we take the example of the ice, that if we heat the ice, so first of all it starts converting into liquid, and if we increase the temperature, so the liquid will convert into the vapor. So we can say that solid first converts to the liquid and then converts to the vapor. But in sublimation process, what is sublimation? Some solids on heating change to vapors without passing through the liquid state. This process is called sublimation. There are some solids that if we heat, the solids directly converts to the vapor without passing through the liquid state. So that is the process of the sublimation. For example, substances like iodine crystals, benzoic acids, ammonium chloride, they undergo the process of the sublimation or they sublime. Means these particles, if we heat these particles, the solid particles, they directly convert from the solid to the vapor without passing through the liquid state. Here we can see the sublimation process in iodine, that when solid iodine is heated, the crystals sublime, going directly from the solid to the gaseous state. When the vapor cools, it goes directly from the gaseous to the solid state. Means iodine crystals, that is the solid particles, if we heat them, it directly converts to the vapors without passing through the liquid state. And similarly, if we cool the vapors, so without converting to the liquid state, the vapors directly convert to the solid state. So this is the sublimation process of the iodine crystals. Here further we can understand the process of the sublimation. Like some solids, if we heat that, through the process of melting, it converts to the liquid, and further heating, the liquid converts to the gases, that is the boiling, and the gases through the process of condensation converts to the liquid, and liquid through the process of freezing converts to the solid. But some solids that go through the process of the sublimation, in that process the solids directly converts to the gases, that is the sublimation, and the reverse of the sublimation is the deposition, in which the gases directly converts to the solid without passing through the liquid state. So students, now you have to solve question number, the self-assessment exercise 5.6. that is that sodium chloride, an ionic compound, has a high melting point of 801 degrees Celsius, whereas molecular solid such as ice has relatively low melting point of 0 degrees Celsius. Explain this difference. You have to solve self-assessment exercise 5.6. Thank you.